everybody. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity. And man, do I have another fun interview for you. If you're a big fan of the DBs or the Continental Drifters or have enjoyed R.E.M's work, and who hasn't, or Hootie and the Blowfish, then you're going to want to listen to this interview or watch it, depending on what platform you're catching this on. This is with Peter Holsapple, who has played with and is part of the bands of all of these people, plus many, many more. And he's got a new solo album out called The Face of 68. And baby boomers are going to absolutely love it, as well as all the other generations behind us that wish they were baby boomers. This is a phenomenal album. I'd love it if you would go out and buy it. Buy it online, pay to download it, get the CD, whatever. Just please support our artists, and Peter is more than worthy of your support. This is a great album. Did I say that already? So we have a fun chat. We talk about this album. We talk about his past work. We talk about Bob Dylan, the Beatles, a bunch of other artists. We turn each other on to some artists that each other hasn't heard of before. Just very laid back, very informal conversation that I think you'll love sitting in on. Just get your favorite drink, some popcorn, kick your heels up, and watch and or listen. And if you don't mind, would you hit like and would you subscribe? It's not going to cost you anything, but it helps us out a lot. And share this interview with your friends and ask them to do the same, because we do a lot of this kind of stuff here on Boomerocity. So without any further ado, here is my first of what I hope are many, many more interviews to come with Peter Holsapple. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care.
That's me. Or there's
I see a blurry you. There you go.
The coffee's kicking in. Oh, look at your background. I love your background.
I'll send it to you if you would like it.
I would love that. Thank you so much.
That's just beautiful. I'd be happy to do it.
You know what it reminds me of?
What's that?
Were you ever a Blue Oyster Cult fan?
Oh yeah, I've interviewed a couple of the guys from them.
The inner sleeve, the inside sleeve of the double record, On Your Feet or On Your Knees, that opens up like that. It's got all this 5 of them across with their guitars, which I got to see live at a little outdoor stage in Winston-Salem, and it was just like. But the background is just basically all Marshall 100-watt stacks. And I thought to myself, at the time, I thought, man, that'd be great wallpaper. Cut to 20 years later, Guitar Center. That's what they got as wallpaper.
Wow.
So, I'm guessing because of your background, you have listened to the record.
Of course. Yes. Good. And I can't wait to talk about it. I was struck by how different the sound is compared to, a lot of your past work, either, solo or, other bands and such. And so before I get to that, I wanted to mention too, that about 6 months ago, I had the privilege of interviewing one of your, I guess you could still call him bandmates, Will Rigby from the DBs. And had a fun interview with him. And now I have the privilege of interviewing you. So I've been looking forward to this. Tell me what got you started on this album. What was the motivation behind it? When did you start it? When did you finish it? That kind of thing.
Well, just to give you the short version of it, I finished a song called Larger Than Life, which is the 3rd song on the record. And listened to it, and it was like 2022, I guess. Sorry, 2021 when I did that. No, 2023, I guess I would have done that. And then I thought, well, maybe I should listen to the stuff that I've done since I did Game Day in 2018, because maybe there's some songs, maybe there's a record in there. And I had a conference with my wife, who is very smart about these things, and she said, well, you've now done the record that you wanted to do with just playing all the instruments yourself. Why don't you go in with a producer and a rhythm section and cut the thing like a band? I was like, she's really smart. So I did that, and I was able to get Don Dixon, and I was able to get a rhythm section, which is Robert Sledge from Ben Folds 5 formerly, and also Rob Ladd, a dear friend who had played in the Continental Drifters briefly, was Dixon's drummer for years. I think he's the drummer for the Connells for the past few years. So the pedigree was there, and the ability to communicate with these people was there. And Rob and Robert have played together in a band called Preesh, spelled Preeesh exclamation point for years. And I actually got to sit in with them at a benefit thing a few years ago, and I got to sing "A Million Miles Away" by the Plimsolls, one of my favorite songs, and "Dance Hall Days" by Wang Chung, which is also one of my favorite songs. So we had a ball doing that. So I knew that those guys could work hand in glove, and they did. And Dixon's the guy you want to have in the studio with the engineer. And the engineer was great too. His name is Jason Richmond. He's been nominated for Grammys and stuff, and I've gotten to work with him on a few projects. So the team was assembled, the plan was made, the songs were submitted to the producer. And he said, "Let's do it." And we booked 4 days at a studio 6.5 minutes away from my home. We got Dixon a room in the brand new hotel 20 seconds across the parking lot from the studio. And we went in. We didn't actually rehearse it.
Wow.
I said, really what I want to do is a record that is kind of guitar, bass, and drums centric. I mean, I've done a lot of elaborate produced stuff over the years, and the general nature of a band like the DBs versus the general nature of a band like the Continental Drifters. They have their sounds. And so I was trying to be very specifically not to sound like either of those bands very much.
Right.
I can't help it. I mean, I write songs in both bands. So,
right.
But I just thought, what if I aim toward the harder, more guttural guitar parts and the riffs and things like that, things that people aren't necessarily used to. Will they like it? Is this what my career was supposed to be like all the way since I was 16? And I was playing heavy guitar when I was 16. So maybe I'm having a second childhood, second adolescence.
Nothing wrong with that, especially at our ages, right? So,
dude, how old are you?
65.
Okay, I got 4 years on you. I'm turning 69 next month. And so,
well, congratulations. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm officially at that point where people need to be really careful when they use the word spry around me, because I don't want to hear that. I'm not spry. I'm energetic. I've got miles to go before I rest.
Or try to help you sit down, So. Well, I run into that. So
I also think that this record is a product of recognizing where I am in my life and in my career, and thinking I don't really have to worry about a lot of demographic research. The people that are going to buy my record, I think, are probably going to be the people who have bought my records. I think at this age, it's hard to expand your audience very much, except gradually, unless you have a big fat placement in a movie that takes off. That changes people's fortunes, certainly.
Yep.
But I don't count on that stuff anymore. I don't get bent out of shape when it doesn't happen. The song Faces 68. If it was going to happen, it would have happened by now, and would it matter anyhow? I mean, that's kind of the distillation of my attitude going into this record. I wanted to make a record I wanted to make. I wanted to make a record that felt, I mean, all the records I've made are records that I wanted to make at the time, but I feel like I have a better handle on what I need to make for my own satisfaction and for getting the stuff out that needs to get out. Working with the producer is great for me, because otherwise I'm just sitting there. It's like, when is the painting finished? When do you put the paintbrush down? When is the song finished? Do you go back and remix it? Sure. Do you add different vocals? Why not? Speed it up, slow it down. So
5 versions of the album, right? So
oh my God, I made the mistake of doing that with a song on Game Day, which by and large is a pretty good record. I mean, I like the songs on Game Day. I did, the execution is, it's like operator error on my part. I should have really done that with more musicians and I'm thinking maybe I should go recut that record live in the studio. That would be kind of fun.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
It's so, but I mean, and the songs are really different. But I had a mix of Tough Day, which is one of my favorite songs because it's a rockin' hard, rockin' little song, and I listened to it. I'm like, I moved those drums around so much because you can do that digitally. You know, you can pick up a whole drum track and like take a section and try to move it, and you have to do that very gradually, or it'll all get off, and you have to just sort of figure out how it fits in there. I'm not that detail oriented. I see a digital recording as a giant complex multi-track field recorder. You know,
Yeah.
stick a mic in front of me. I don't know what it sounds like. I don't even know if it's the right mic anymore. But it's a mic and the signal path is clear and it's hitting the tape, as we used to say.
Yeah.
So having a producer like Dixon, who is a very attuned listener, and he can hear it when things are out of rhythm or out of pace, or if the guitars are going out of tune, or what needs to be fixed, or if you need to just sort of sit back and say, yeah, that's a good take. That's a good take. Let's get another one just for a safety, but I think we got it with that one. You know, because he knows what the essence of the song is. This is a record of essence. You
Hmm.
know, I
Hmm.
think the the executioner, me, as vocalist, which is the first thing that people go for, I am who I am. If I may quote a noted 20th century philosopher, Popeye the Sailor Man. And
Yeah. Amen.
you know, I can't, I took singing lessons once at the behest of Miles Copeland at IRS Records when we were doing the vocals for The Sound of Music, the record that we recorded in 1986 or 87, and it was released in 87 on IRS. And we went to this nice vocal coach. Will and I both did. And she had been like vocal coach to the stars and had been doing it for years in Manhattan and had the little block ad in the back of the Village Voice Classifieds. So we went there for a few weeks and it was a lot of like learning breathing exercises. And it felt so incredibly unnatural. Now, Chris does all this stuff. 40 years later, Chris does this. Sounds great, opens his voice up. I think he sings better because of it, but I couldn't do it. But the cherry on the topping was when Miles walked in when we were doing the vocals for one of the songs on The Sound of Music at the studio in Manhattan. And he asked if it was the guide vocals. And I'd been working and comping the vocals for a while. And I was like, okay. What you see is what you get. What you hear is what you get. This is me. I can't be, what would I be? I mean, I like to sing. I understand I'm not a great singer. I don't really care. People seem to like my voice okay. In fact, I've been doing a lot of home overdubs for people because I can do that, right? I've got a Pro Tools set up in my studio like 20 feet away from us. And I can go out there with my microphone, and I do have a vocal microphone that I know to use, and give people vocal tracks if they want. I don't know why they want. I mean, they also want accordions and mandolins and steel guitars and stuff like that. So I can do that. But the vocal thing is the thing I'm working on right now. I've got a guy, Paul Caspi, I believe is his name, and he's got a great song, "My Shrinking Brain," and I get to sing. I get to sing the part of the doctor. I love it. So, but nobody really asked me to sing on stuff. So when I do, it's really kind of funny.
Where are you clicking in from, by the way? I meant to ask
I'm
you
in
that.
Durham, North Carolina, beautiful city of medicine. Um,
Well,
about 15, 20 minutes away from Will, about 25 minutes away from Chris.
all
You
right.
know,
I'm in Sevierville, Tennessee.
okay,
So, how did the hurricanes affect you? Much at
not at
all?
all. We're Durham,
Good.
Durham is pretty far inland.
Right.
We got snow during the snow, but my son who goes to college in Wilmington got more. My daughter who lives in New Orleans definitely got more.
Oh my
You know,
gosh. Yeah.
that was crazy. That was crazy. The apocalypse starts here. Um, yeah, no, we're fine. I mean, the funniest thing to me is I mean, I love the great outpouring of love and charity and help for Western North Carolina because they got hit so hard. And I mean, there's a forest fire there now, right near where some
Yeah.
of that stuff took place. My friend Mary's had a campsite of houses right there, all just like totaled. And now the
Oh
fire is
man.
getting in there. So they're trying to figure out how to rebuild. It's just endless, you know?
Yeah. It's tragic, and it, and I feel for the people in California, but and I know not everybody there were, you know, mega millionaires and such, but a lot of them are. And I just hope the fundraising goes to the lower echelons in that area,
I
you
know.
know,
I know what you
because
mean.
how are they going to be able to pick up? I mean, anybody else, they have connections, they have resources to be able to. I mean, I feel for them too, and it's not that I'm being callous, but
No, I know. I know what you mean. I have a
it's
friend. I have a friend and her partner who lost their house in Altadena, and there's a
mm,
house full of like 40 years of memorabilia that she'd collected working for labels for years,
mm,
years and years and years and years. I worked with her for years at Rhino and stuff. And but she and her partner are just quietly trying to figure out how to rebuild without asking for help. They know that there are
mm,
other people out there. I have a friend who works at a music store, and he's brokered and broke. And his wife's a travel agent, and she's still trying to get her business back going after uh, the COVID. And and he's like, I don't have any money, but I've got gear. I can give people gear. If they need gear, I'll give them that, and he does. And that's there's a generous spirit out there for people, and
yeah.
I think in the music community a lot of people, a lot of sort of people you don't know, but who are professional musicians, and thus I don't know how much. I'm not trying to argue a point here particularly. I guess I am, but you know, musicians make so little money these days with the things that they do that everybody's got a second or third gig. They can't really rely on stuff. I know
Well,
that.
I worked in Nashville, in downtown Nashville, for about a year until COVID hit, and yeah, I'd heard the stories, but I actually was because I was 2 blocks from the Ryman, and I see these guys playing for tips on Broadway, and they got to carry, $10,000, $20,000 worth of gear on a little two-wheeler 4 blocks away where the parking's cheaper. And a lot of times they get robbed of their gear, just
Yeah.
because they're walking back to their car at 1 or 2 in the morning. And yeah, musicians, it's not sign a contract and where's my private jet type thing, and a lot of people, I think, have that misconception that once you have a record contract, that it's limos and Learjets. And
That's when your heartache's beginning, I believe somebody. No,
that's right.
I think I think that this record of mine also flies in the face of. I mean, I've worked on records for 6 months. I've been a part of a record that was made over 6 months. Hell, I've been a part of a record that was made over 2 years. But that was all sort of random and in the digital age. But I'm talking 6 months in a recording studio every
Wow.
day, except for like one day off a week. And so my record, which I recorded actually in 3.5 days, it got mixed later by Dixon, one song at a time at his home studio. But we cut those tracks and all the vocals and all the overdubs at this little studio 6.5 minutes away from my home in 3.5 days. And I
Wow.
think that people get a record in much the same way as when they go see a movie and they see the finished product. They see this seamless, flawless ish product that has got everything in its place and a place for everything. And it's so great. And the first thing that people think, I think a lot of times is, oh, yeah, they just went in that recording studio, put up a microphone, and they knocked it out, and they came out and they had a record. And it was just like, it's supposed to sound like that. It's supposed to sound like it was effortless and it was perfect and genuine, and all the, there were no mismatched emotions in a song, any of that stuff. How much is on the cutting room floor? Nobody
Yeah.
knows.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the great thing about doing a record 3.5 days, is that you need to go in there and have that stuff ready to knock out, know what the parts are, know that they already fit, do all the pre-production work in your head and with your producer, even if you're not going to actually rehearse with the band, which we did not. We just went in there. They had demos that I had done,
Hmm.
but they had not actually played those songs with me. So more's the merrier with that. We just I mean, I don't think we did more than 2 or 3 takes of anything. And Dixon was like, "Yeah, I think we're good."
Cool.
It
Very
speaks
cool.
it speaks to the competency of the team.
Great. Great. And it keeps the frustration levels to a minimum, if at all, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, Dixon and I go back to our teenage years. He was an older teenager. I think he's like about four. He may be 4 years older than I am, 4 or 5 years older. But I would go see his band Arrogance, who were a local metal. Well, it wasn't metal, it was a hard rock at that point. They didn't have heavy metal. Heavy metal came later, but it was a
Hmm.
hard rock band, and they were brilliant. And he played a big old Hagstrom semi-acoustic electric bass, and he had a stack of amps, and he would play on this one stage that was like plywood panels, and he would like bounce on his back heels, and the amp this, and we were all just going like he was singing perfectly. He's such a soul man. So he knows what to listen for. He knows what makes a good record. And the
Hmm.
cool thing was I got my deal with Label 51 slash Flatiron.
Hmm.
That's Bill Hine and Andy Zicklin and their team, who are great. Because Dixon had worked with Bill in the past when Bill was heading up Enigma Records.
Hmm.
And then Dixon had produced a band called the Smithereens for them and had some
Hmm.
success for the label. So that gave him a little bit of cachet, and for which I could never really thank either of them enough. And Bill Hine has been just over the top excited about this record. I mean, he will write to me. He's out in the west someplace. I want to say Colorado, but for some reason or other, he has different hours, and so I will find an email in the morning when I wake up at like 5:30. It's like from 30 minutes ago saying, "I was just listening to this song, and I was thinking, and it's like, this is the guy you want on your side when you're putting out
That's
a record.
right.
You want somebody that's actually continues to listen to the record, doesn't see it as a dead option long before it comes out. But I think we all feel like this record is going to have some traction.
I
The
agree.
people I've played it for have been really lovely, and kind of daring to say that this they feel like this is among the best things I've ever done, if not the best single thing I've done. And that's exciting at my juncture here, I I'll
I've,
take it.
I've always I've always loved how, I mean, listening to your past stuff, your solo tracks and such in the past. I, I've always dug how you were kind of a blend of, I felt, and I think this is a compliment, a blend of Dylan and the Beatles. I always just liked
Wow.
how you had that. There was a vibe, a sound, but yet completely your own. It's not, I didn't take it as, oh, he's trying to sound like Dylan. Oh, he's trying to sound like the Beatles. It's just that's what I kind of felt coming out of the tunes, and on this record, man, I just love the. I mean, I don't think it's a radical difference. It's a logical difference in my mind. You go from more folky and acoustic and you know 60ish type of stuff to you know a, when I say harder, I'm talking relatively speaking, and it just blends and it dovetails it complements your past work as well as other tracks on the album, and I just love it. I just think that that's the way albums should be. If you get variations of the same song, throughout the album, typically. when people do that, they've lost me by the second track,
I hear you.
But
Well,
I just love your variation.
thank you. That's a lovely compliment about Dylan and the Beatles, and I think probably everybody my age who turned on Ed Sullivan on Sunday night and saw them play, and then started a band and played for a while and wrote their own songs. I think everybody of that generation cannot help but be at least slightly Beatles influenced. At least cis white guys with guitars, right? Dylan a little bit too. It really depends. Yeah, I was a late adopter of Dylan, although my big brother gave me Dylan records and I loved them, but I just wasn't one of those guys that was like, did you hear the way he said, well, I don't I can't do deep dives like that, but there are people like that. I will say AJ Weberman was my pot dealer at one point in New York, just so you know. If you remember AJ, he
I
just got a
do.
little traction. They took him to the Timothy Chalamet movie. The New York Times took him to the Chalamet movie, and he was like shouting all the way through it, lies, and it's like, wow, okay, But I
Yeah,
think
but Dylan approved of it. I mean,
I don't, it's a I don't know what your feeling is about it. For me, I'm a perfect guy for a movie, and especially like a biopic of somebody from a generation that I appreciate. I mean, I like biopics about people I know nothing about, but it's fascinating to see how they do this. I want to go back to the one that's got the six different actors as Dylan. I was getting, I can't remember what it's called, but I will go back to that at some point soon and see that. My daughter, who is 17, I have a younger daughter who is 17 and is graduating from high school, but she is going through a sort of a Joni Mitchell, Simon and Garfunkel, Bob Dylan phase right now,
yeah.
which as a musical father thrills me to no end, but also as a practical father must remain as a topic of conversation that only comes up when she brings it up.
She wants
So,
to. Yeah.
I mean, I get texts from her saying, Dad, I think My Little Town may be my favorite Simon and Garfunkel track. And I'm like, yes. But then I'm like, hey, great song, isn't it? Yeah. That's on three different albums. It's on a Paul Simon, a Art Garfunkel, and a Simon and Garfunkel record. Okay, Dad. You know. So I'm that kind of guy, by the way, if you hadn't figured that
Yeah.
out from the song.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I just find it striking, and this may be taken as a criticism of Dylan, but to see those everyman type of vibes from back then when he first started and realizing he's cashing his checks now in Malibu, it
Yeah.
just it's gone from you know communal type of feelings to very capitalistic type of days today. And I wonder if he envisioned himself where he is today way back then.
I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, if he did, that was some of the greatest known manifestations of positive thinking since Norman Vincent Peale. I have to say,
Yeah.
that's remarkable. If he willed that to happen by his own ability to kind of guide his vision of his personality, and I don't know, man, that's a great thing. I mean, to me, that's a beautiful thing to be able to
Oh,
kind
I
of
agree. I agree.
modify to with your needs. Need to write some songs. Let's say we have a motorcycle accident. Did they? I mean, sure. Where are the photos? Where are the crime scene photos, right? I don't mean to be like that. Yes, I do. With this, it's funny. I love Bob Dylan. If you ask me my favorite Bob Dylan song right now, I'd probably have to say Mississippi. I
Ah,
just love it. To me, okay, there's a song you were talking about. Well, we were talking about how uh the face of 68 is kind of a sort of a look at where I am at this age. I see Mississippi as something sort of like that for Dylan also. there seems to be a kind of an underlying vibe of like unfulfillment and regret in that song. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it. Like I say, I'm not a guy that says, "Did you hear how he said well?" But I am a
Mhm.
guy that will find lyrics of his and turn them over in my head and think, this
Yeah.
is really just a fabulous turn of phrase. I don't, how did he ever come up with that? You know,
Yeah.
Mississippi has got at least two instances of that.
Hmm.
Stick with me, baby. Stick with me. Anyhow, things should start to get interesting right about now. What? 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 So, anyway, enough about Bob Dylan. What do you think of me?
Well,
I
what
just
I want,
we
go
were
ahead.
talking
Go ahead.
about, I was just mentioning that kind of guy, which is the record
Yeah.
collector around there. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to show you because I figured this is probably kind of good. I'm wearing one of those record store guy t-shirts. I don't know if you can read it.
Yep. Yep. I love it.
Okay, yeah. Couldn't find one with Mooney. Couldn't find one with Roscoe G and Rebop. So this will do. But I do love Can. I love Can. You would never know that in my musical journeys in life, but I do love Can so much. I'd put Jackie Liebezeit up against Zigaboo Model East any day in a battle of funky drummers.
I love it. What was I besides? I mean, I to me the surprises is the different sounds that you come out. And by the way, I think the calling card I would use to my friends about this album is I've floated it out already as my idea number 49. Love that song.
Really?
Yeah, I
How
do.
how excellent and how funny. I'll tell you why in a minute. Tell me why.
I don't know. It's just there's something about that. I'm into grooves, vibes of a song. It could be a song about mass murdering, and if it's got the right groove or the right tone to it, the right feel, I would love it. Like, I love that song that Bonnie Raitt did. I Can't Make You Love Me. What a depressing song, but I love the sound of it. It's a beautiful song. And
Yeah.
so to me, that's about any song, that's what gets me. And that's what got me about my idea number 49. And, just, lyrically I love how, it's got I love good lyrics. Yeah, 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 all the time does wears off after a few seconds, but to do what you've done lyrically, of course, the title made me think of you know the James Gaines song "Funk Number." but I don't know. I just love the song. There's just the feel, the vibe, the hook. The sound,
Well,
of course.
thank you
But
so much. I will tell you a couple of little tidbits about that song. First of all, the title, My Idea Number 49, comes from an app that I use on my phone called Music Memos. And music memos are how I can record if I'm just sitting in the living room with an acoustic guitar or ukulele and I need to throw something down, you can put it onto that thing and it'll actually tell you the tempo, tell you the chords you're playing. It'll add a bass and drums to it. It's like,
wow.
wow, who needs a band, right? um, but anyway, so this is one that I came up with, and it saves it as my idea number something. And this one happened to be my idea number 49. And so I had done another set of lyrics for the song, and I was not satisfied. So I went back and I was like, what if I did this? What if I had a laundry list at the end? Because I love laundry lists. So I put that in there first, and then I went back and I came up with a couple of knife twisters. And but I'm glad you like that. Now here's the funny part. I had an interview a couple of days ago for a podcast, and it was a man and a woman, and the guy said uh, that song in particular made him feel like if he'd been my A&R guy, maybe it didn't belong on the record. And I was like, oh, an A&R guys, huh? Okay. So I said, so for the rest of the interview, it was like, okay, as my A&R guy. But I think that's really funny because he singled that song out as one that didn't work for him. But I love that it works for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you'll find it works for a lot of people
Oh, I
because,
hope so. I hope so.
you know, A&R guys, that's the reason why we have albums with all the same sounding songs on one album. You know, it's
Easier to sell, if it sounds like one thing, and I will tell you what, I go back and I think about things that are singular sounding. I think of Al Green. Al Green has written a lot of songs that sound very much like an Al Green song. There is a style. Um, I mean, there are a number of people out there that do it like that. I can't think of any. The next person I was thinking was Arthur Big Boy Crudup, but that's from 1954, so it doesn't really count.
no
70 years
Li
later.
Lionel Richie or Barry Manilow. You know, those guys.
Yeah,
They
but they
Lionel's a little variable, but
both of them can go into different territory. Did you ever hear the Barry Manilow musical? There was some
no, I
great.
did
He was
not.
actually working with August Darnell from Kid Creole, who I'm a huge fan of, and they were trying to do something together, and I heard some bits of that. But I mean, you could say Randy Newman writes a similar type of song, right? You know what it's going to be. It's going to have a melody and it's going to have a lot of interesting internal passing chords on the piano. It'll be piano based. I don't feel like he's written any songs that we've heard on banjo. Maybe he has. I think when you pick up a different instrument, you write a different song also, which
Agreed.
makes it
Yeah.
easy for me because I got a whole bunch to play passively. And but now I'm a lead guitar player. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned ukulele earlier, and I was going to ask you, have you ever listened to any of Jake Shimobukuro's stuff?
Absolutely. Man, he's great.
That guy's a monster.
He comes through here all the time. He plays at the Carolina Theater, and I miss him every time. But yeah, I
I've
mean, I got turned on to him from his version of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which was
hmm
just like flattening. He has done for ukulele what Bella Fleck has done for banjo, I think. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
new parameters.
yeah.
But if you like ukulele, have you ever listened to Roy Smeck?
No, I haven't.
Look
I have to
him
write that
up.
down.
Roy Smeck,
How's the last name spelled?
SM. Look, this is our trade-off. I get
Yeah,
Andy. You get
I gave you Andy, you're giving me Roy.
Roy Smeck, Smeck,
Okay.
Smeck,
I'll
and
look him up.
he was a multi-instrumentalist from New York, and he was one of the first guys that did any of those sort of short demonstration films that were shown before movies and stuff of like not a preview of the movie, but just another little bit of entertainment. So there's one in particular that I want you to try to find where he plays banjo, ukulele, and steel guitar, I believe, because you'll flip out. And the whole time he's like looking at the camera with this shit-eating grin on his face because he can do it and you can't. And when I moved to New York, this is, in a world of regrets and never got done. When I moved to New York in 1978, he was still in the phone book. And it was like, why I should call him up and get a lesson. Had I gotten a lesson, maybe I would have been a more competent lead guitar player earlier on. But I mean, Harmony Guitars had Roy Smeck models. I mean, he was a beloved entertainer, and he was so good. And you will just, I guarantee. I want to hear back from you though when you finish watching that, and tell me whether you don't think that is like.
What's the name of it? Do you know? What the song he
You
does?
know what, my brother? Hold on here. I'm going to make this happen and I'm going to find it and I'm going to send it to you because we have this little text message area down here. And that's a kind
Yeah.
of a cool thing. So if you don't mind me dropping
I
off
do
here,
I have it set up? I guess I do. Yeah. Okay.
Roy Smeck. And yeah, you'll have it. Okay. Wizard of the Strings. I don't want this. Okay. His past. Wizard of the Strings. Full LP. I don't want the LP. I want this.
I
This
tell
is a
you
doc.
what,
There's a
do
document.
this.
Here we go. This is the one. His pastimes. Here we go.
Yes. Okay.
And that's not it.
Tell you what, email it to me. I'll
I'm
give
just
it to
about
you.
to send it to you right here, though, in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let me
That's
pull the
easy.
chat back up.
There you go.
All
So
right. Let
that should
me.
be about 7.5 minutes of Roy Smack, and your life will be, you'll be thanking me later.
All right. I'm going to throw one more at you then, since we're exchanging things. This guy is you may have heard of him. He is a Christian guitarist and phenomenal. His name is Phil Kagi. Are you
Sure,
familiar
from
with
Glass
him?
Harp.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I knew about them back in the '70s when they were new. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I
excellent.
figured you did. So, but he does a thing on his acoustic shows. Does a lot of looping and layering,
Hmm.
and he does a great thing with "Here Comes the Sun."
Oh, cool. I'll
And
try to check that out.
he sings in. There's several clips of it out there, but he sings into the whole of the guitar to create harmonies for himself. He
Yeah,
lays. I mean, he does it live in front of everybody, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing. But
and you've heard of
anyway,
you've probably heard Yasmin Williams, right?
yeah, yeah,
Also fantastic. I love it when she plays when they play the double neck on their lap. That's just amazing to me.
kind of Jeff Healy
I
style, huh?
saw Stanley Jordan once upon a time at a College Media Journal conference, and it was just great. You know, all he executed that brilliant two-hand stuff, and it just sounded gorgeous.
I love discovering stuff like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's a lot of fun. Well, what do you hope fans take away from this album when you think of your fans listening to it or somebody that's just discovering you? What is the takeaway you hope they have with this
Well, they'll
album?
have two different takeaways. If they've never heard of me before and they happen to hear something on the radio and they like it, or if they hear it in in a big budget Hollywood movie, we can hope, right?
We can all
Um,
pray.
yeah, we can. If they hear it and they like it and they seem to think that they want to follow through, I say, get this record. It's a great place to start, work backward. To all my fans who have been with me since whatever, 1978 or before. Actually, my high school band is reuniting for a sold out show in Winston-Salem this
Wow.
Saturday, February 1st at Gas Hill. Little Diesel, the original five members band, and we're actually doing some new songs. But I mean, these are
How
guys that I've
fun.
played with since I was like 15. So it's
How
great.
cool. I love
So the
that.
people that have listened to Little Diesel and Rittenhouse Square and the DBs and the Continental Drifters and R.E.M. and Hootie and everybody that I played on their records and the People's Revolutionary Army of Saint Bernard, my short-lived tribute to the MC5 in New Orleans. Oh, I don't know. I would say this is also very good. This is also an extremely good record. If you're expecting it to be a power pop, thrill a minute, teeth hurting with the sweetness thing, there's a couple of songs on there that'll fill the bill, but it's mostly about the guitars. It's mostly about the songs. I made a record that is predominantly electric guitar with with two sides, obviously, meat and three. And so it's going to be easy to play it with a band. It's also going to be easy to replicate it with just an acoustic guitar and vocal, because I think that is the way a lot of people will be able to see me promoting this record. I do anticipate not being able to always do a band where I want to, just because the economics of touring with a band, as small as it may be and as compact as it may be, is a
Still expensive.
stone bitch in 2025. It was
Yeah.
terrible 2 years ago. I don't think it's gotten any better. And I've got friends with trailers. That's good. I don't want to drag a trailer around. It's
Yeah.
easy enough to sling an acoustic guitar or even a small electric and an amp. I've done that before too. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see. But I'm going to try to have some dates going. I just booked some dates in April, and then I'm working on a summer Pacific Northwest thing with my house concert agent, and my regular agent is also working for trying to find some deals with some weekends with some higher profile people. I think I'm going to have to open for some people again. I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. I do like headlining just because I don't feel like I'm an obstacle. You
What's
know,
the smallest venue you'll book in? size wise?
How big is your living room?
Well, the reason why I was asking is there's a great little place in Knoxville, hour away. Probably, I think it holds about 100. It's a converted Golden Corral building,
Oh my God. You just
and at the back of it,
sold me on
in the oh, I'm not done. Wait, there's more. There's in the back of it, the dude sells guitars like new Taylors and such, and it's got a little bar and grill to the side of it, all right in that same building. It's called the Open Chord. And
it. Cord.
Jake has played there. Jake has played there. Right at the end of the
That
shutdown.
CHORD? Yes.
Yeah, CHORD.
Okay.
It's on Kingston Pike in Knoxville.
Okay. I'm putting this down. I'm going to tell somebody.
Yeah,
I need
and
venues that size because I'm realistic, you know. I mean, I realize that also that my audience is getting older. They like to start shows earlier. They like smaller shows where I'm not going to blast them out. I had the realization the other day that a person comes to a house concert that I'm performing at, and they've been a fan of mine since the first DB's record, and they're still a fan of mine enough to want to pay for a house concert ticket, that even if I've got a new record that I insist on playing some new songs from because that's my gig, they will still have a better than average chance of hearing a bunch of songs that they really like. Good odds, right? But I have to play songs from my new record because that's why I'm out there.
right.
I want to enforce the opinion that Peter Holsapple has a new record out and you should hear it.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
Yeah, that you're still doing stuff.
I have to be square one of any promotion for my record. You know, it's going to come down to what can I do? How can I make this happen? I
Right.
want to make myself available for anybody that wants to talk about it. I love talking. Have you noticed?
I do too. That's why we're still talking here. So.
I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm taking my can records and going away. All right.
Very cool.
What do
And
I need to
if
send
you,
you? I need to send you stuff, right? Probably. Or
I think I've got pictures and everything I need to get this all posted. But
yeah,
if you're coming to Knoxville, I want to know.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
I want to meet up with you. Yeah, right. My pleasure. And let's stay in touch, man. And I hope you can make it here to Knoxville. I want to see you.
Me too. I hope so too. And it was great talking with you. Thanks for asking some smart questions. I hope I didn't run away with it too bad.
I loved every second of it. It was fun. A lot
Excellent.
of fun. So
think good thoughts for Saturday night for Little Diesel.
You betcha. I wish I was there. So
all right. Well, check out our record. It's on all the streaming services now, finally, 50 years
I've been
later.
listening. All righty, buddy. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.